hard to build anything that you're not grateful for. If you're not grateful for a friendship, it's difficult to build that friendship. Because if you're putting time into it, it must be important to you in some way. I just don't want to be bored. Even if it's something as self-serving as that, still, that person's providing an opportunity for you to not be bored. So you're choosing to put time into it. And what's the most important thing that you're doing in the world? In fact, what's the most important thing in your life? See, it's a hard answer. It's easy to answer, but it's a hard answer to give. The most important thing in your life is whatever you're doing right now. You're proving that it's the most important thing in your life by the fact that you're doing it right now, even if you don't think of it that way. What? Being in this class right now is more important than being at home? Yeah. Yeah, because you're choosing to do this right now. Because the only thing that's real in your life is this moment right now. The future is a hope, the past is a memory. The only thing that's real is this moment right now. And so whatever you're doing right now is the most important thing in your life. You're not doing it because it's the most important thing in your life. It's the most important thing in your life because you're choosing to do it. Do you ever think about, why do I even exist? It's incredible. Like, the very fact that you even exist is incredible. And the more that you can really internalize that, you can fill your life with true wonder. Because this life, man, is, I don't know, man, to me it's the strangest life I've ever known. It's one thing to say this, right? It's not the quantity, it's the quality of the time. And we say this. Do you think that what the person is doing instead of spending the quantity matters? So in other words, if you have, like in your example, you have a parent who, they're very busy, but when they're here, they're present, and we're doing things together, and we're bonding. Do you think it matters that the rest of the time they're at the bar getting drunk? In other words, would we say it's okay if he's wasted half the time, because the other half of the time he's here with me, and Dad loves me. Yeah.
Everyone's got issues in life. And
Well, speak for yourself. I'm perfect. Yeah. That's why it's called love, because I think we've talked about it here before, right? Like, what does it mean to love? You haven't? Yeah. I'll talk a bit about that thing. That's really important, and it's one of those things that I know it sounds like a 5-year-old question. What does it mean to love? What does what mean? What does love mean? What is this? But it really matters, because the language that we use shapes how it is that we see the world. It colors how we see the world. For example, if you're, I think I've used the example before, if you're using passive language is saying something like, I wish somebody wrote a letter this morning, I was reading it, and it had some examples of passive language in there. I wish I'd printed it out, could have used it right now. But passive language would be describing the world as though it happened to you. So for example, if you ever watch those shows of people in prison, and they'll ask the person, so, how'd you end up in prison? And they'll say, well, some friends picked me up one day, and they drove me to a party, and then an altercation ensued, and there's a firearm, and the firearm went off, and here I am, I'm incarcerated. So what's missing from the whole explanation is the word I, or any agency at all, anything active. Here's how an active voice would say it. Some friends picked me up, and I went with them to a party. I got into a fight at the party. I pulled out my weapon and I shot somebody. That's why I'm here. I did this, I did that. There's 2 ways of writing, active voice and passive voice. And everybody in here writes in one of those 2 ways. And it's just a natural thing. If I hadn't given it a name, you might not have even noticed if you write in active voice or passive voice. But research shows some incredible things, which is that people who write in the active voice do far better in life. People who write in the passive voice do way worse. And it isn't a matter of intelligence. It isn't like smarter people write in active voice. But what I think it reveals is that if you approach the world from a passive perspective, this is happening to me, that's happening to me, this is happening to me, that's happening to me, you don't feel like you have any agency or control over your own life. And if you don't feel like you can make a difference in your own life, why on earth would you try working in your own life? It wouldn't make any sense. So, but if you have an active voice, like for example, when Elon Musk talks about starting SpaceX, do you suppose he talks like, well, this happened and that happened and then some spaceships got built? Or do you think he talks about it as, I did this, I secured this funding, I got these engineers, we built these rockets, we built this landing platform. It's all active voice, because that you take an active approach to the world, but the way that you write will reflect how you see the world. If you see the world in a passive way, then you believe that you don't really have any control over your own life. And therefore the world is always acting on you, and we walk through life, there's a word for this, which is perpetual victimhood. Nothing, I can't accomplish anything, I can't do this, I can't do that. Some of you in here, if you've said that around me, something like, I can't fill in the blank, whatever it is, you've probably heard me say it. Not with that attitude. And sometimes like, oh, I can't fly. What do you want me to do? I can't fly. Oh, not with that attitude. Now, some things doesn't really matter the attitude you have. You really can't fly. But like I'll teach jujitsu, and I'll have these students sometimes who get on the bottom of someone smashing them. They can't get out. They're trapped, and they'll be like, I can't. And I always say the same thing. Not with that attitude. Can you? Yeah, it's possible. You just got to figure out how to do it. But if your immediate action is, I can't, you become helpless. And if our attitude when we see the world is always, I can't do that, I can't accomplish that, I can't become a doctor, I can't become I was gonna say I can't become a lawyer, but why would you want to? I can't become a surgeon, I can't become president. Well, yeah, not with that attitude. And so that's why I say that, because it really matters how it is that we see the world. If we don't understand what love is, and if we don't understand that there's varying types of love, it can cause us to live. Well, I'll show you in just a few minutes how it is that we can live like in a chaotic way. Yeah, you had your hand up like 10 minutes ago. It's hard to build anything that you're not grateful for. If you're not grateful for a friendship, it's difficult to build that friendship. Moreover, are the friendships and things that you have, should you be grateful for them? Yeah, and you prove it by the fact that you put time into it. Because if you're putting time into it, it must be important to you in some way. Well, I just don't want to be bored. Even if it's something as self-serving as that, still, that person's providing an opportunity for you to not be bored. So you're choosing to put time into it. And what's the most important thing that you're doing in the world? In fact, what's the most important thing in your life? See, it's a hard answer. It's easy to answer, but it's a hard answer to give. The most important thing in your life is whatever you're doing right now. You're proving that it's the most important thing in your life by the fact that you're doing it right now, even if you don't think of it that way. What? Being in this class right now is more important than being at home? Yeah. Yeah, because you're choosing to do this right now. You might think like, yeah, but I'm gonna go home later. Well, if you do, then at that moment, because the only thing that's real in your life is this moment right now. You think about the past is in the past. And you probably don't even really remember it accurately anyway. It's probably a bunch of fake memories. And so, and it's in the past. The future is just a hope. It's how we hope things are gonna work out for us. It's how we hope things are going to go. And even then, we hope, it's like, for example, you might think like, oh, I want to go to college, and I hope I get accepted to a certain college, and I hope afterwards I get this job as a surgeon. You might hope that right now, but then maybe if you get that job as a surgeon, it could end up being the worst thing that ever happened to you. Perhaps. You won't know until you're actually there. And so the future is a hope, the past is a memory. The only thing that's real is this moment right now. And so whatever you're doing right now is the most important thing in your life. You're not doing it because it's the most important thing in your life. It's the most important thing in your life because you're choosing to do it. Whatever it is that you decide that you're going to put your life into, and I mean life like second by second, not like your overall life, but the minutes of your life. Wherever you decide to invest the moments of your life are important because you're putting your time into it, because you're putting your life into it. Now understand that difference. You're not putting your life into it because it's important. It's important because you're putting your life into it. And every single second that you put into a class, into a friendship, into a job, is one less second of your life that you have. You don't know how many you have. When you were born, there's a certain number of seconds in your life. And you don't know how many it is. Some people get way more than others. Some people have way too few. And I've told you that about the painting I had back there from a student who had way too few seconds of life. Didn't realize he'd have so few. And so whatever it is that you're putting your life into, make sure that at the very least that it's worthy of you. And it's worthy of the, it sounds so stupid, but only because I don't know if you'll understand, but it's absolutely true. That it's worthy of the importance and the power of your life, of your existence. You know, we have people who will fight wars over gold and diamonds because they're worth so much and they're so precious. Doesn't that seem like really stupid to you? Like how many of you are there in the world? One. And look at the whole universe. How many yous are there in the whole universe? One. Which means that it's the most precious, valuable thing in the world. There's tons of diamonds. There's tons of gold. I mean, there are entire planets in the universe, actually in the galaxy, that are made of diamonds. Literally, planets 3 times the size of Earth, and it's a pure diamond. There's lots of diamonds out there, man. But we'll sacrifice the most precious things in the world, human lives, for diamonds and gold, which we can make in a lab now, even. But you won't appreciate. So you won't value your life until you think of it that way. And if you don't value your life, then you won't value your time. And if you value your life, you'll value your time, because that's what your life is made of, the time. Why is it so important when we can have somebody who puts quantity and quality into our lives? Because we recognize, wow, this person could be doing other things right now, and yet they choose to make this moment the most important thing in the world. They take seconds of their finite life, they take minutes, hours, days, weeks of their finite life, and they give it to me. And then I give it back to them, which means I'm literally sacrificing life to spend with this person. And it's only when we don't realize that that's what we're doing that we don't mind wasting time. And that's what it is when it's a waste. It doesn't come back and enrich you in any way. You don't invest the time. But if we can realize how it sounds so stupid, but when we realize how important and precious our lives are, which means how important and precious we are, then you have that freedom and that responsibility to invest your time in the things that are worthy of you. Like at any given moment, imagine if someone were to ask you, what you're doing right now, is this worthy of you? You can think of it like some people, I don't know about you, but like my parents sacrificed way too much for me to just be mediocre. And it's the thing I actually find myself asking myself once in a while. What I'm doing right now, if my mom and my dad were here, would they say, you're making us proud because of the sacrifice we made. What you're doing right now justifies our sacrifice. Or I wonder if my parents would go, we sacrificed for you to be doing this right now? We sacrificed for you to be behaving like this, to be acting like this, to be wasting this time in life? I'm not saying they wouldn't love me anyway. Of course they're going to love you anyway. But in your heart, you know that it's worthy of their sacrifice. And even if you are angry at mom and dad and you think, I don't care about their sacrifice, but certainly at least you care about yourself to some degree, even if we'll fold our arms and scratch our chins and say, I don't care about my own life. Of course you do. Because your life is where you keep all of your experiences. Sometimes we like to get edgy and pretend like we don't care. But the very fact that you're breathing and alive right now tells you that you value it. It's like when people say that, I wouldn't want to live to be 100 years old. Man, that'd be terrible. There are people out there who are 95 who are saying, man, I hope I make it to 100. And that's because they realize something that we don't realize, which is that they're able to look at life going backwards. When you look at your life, you can see that the hourglass, it's cloudy, but the time kind of runs down. And it isn't until you get to all the sand being at the bottom of the hourglass that you can finally see clearly through it. And our lives are like that. It isn't until afterwards we have to live forward, but we can understand it going backwards. And so if we can get our mindset around that at the moment, can you be grateful for the moment that you're living right now, even if it's not the thing in your mind that you think you want to be doing? Can you still find value in this moment? Even in a math class, even in an English class, even at a job that you don't enjoy, can you always find those moments to be grateful for? Not just grateful like in the prayer hands case on Instagram, but actually like, dude, I woke up this morning. I did this today. I did that today. This is amazing. You know, the very fact that life, I mean, do you ever think about why do I even exist? It's incredible. Like the very fact that you even exist is incredible. And the more that you can really internalize that, you can fill your life with true wonder. Because this life, man, is, I don't know, man, to me it's the strangest life I've ever known. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? I didn't even talk about love like I said I was going to. Yeah.